There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect just the way you are. And what you consider flaws might actually be your greatest asset. Today I'm talking to Brian, and he's a coach at Happily Neurodivergent. We're going to learn his life story and also listen to his message for teachers. Let's go. Hello, Brian. Thank you for coming today on my podcast. I'd like to start by asking you to tell us a bit about you, what you do, anything you'd like to share with us.
Well, thank you for having me on, Val. This is going to be an absolute joy, I have no doubt. And a little bit about me, I'll try and make it as precise as possible. I grew up with a very difficult life because I had undiagnosed conditions, namely autism, ADHD, and dyslexia. School was hard, socializing was hard. It was pretty much a miserable existence. And then when I was 18, just shy of graduation, I was diagnosed with cancer. So I had surgery to remove it while I was studying for finals. And a month after graduation, it came back like wildfire. So I spent that summer in chemotherapy, got my life in order, went off, got a master's degree in social work, got married, proceeded to have 3 sons with neurodivergence, namely autism, ADHD. My oldest has the dyslexia as well. And that's how I found out I share these diagnoses with them. And it completely upended my life for a while and spun things in a completely different direction. Because when my oldest hit first grade, he went into crisis because he was encountering all of these transition issues and sensory problems and difficulty with communicating that he didn't have with me and his mom at home. So that got me moving in the direction of advocating for the autism population. In very short order, the word got out about me, how well I explained the experience of being on the spectrum, how well I connected the dots, and I started winding up on stages, teaching teachers, teaching parents. And that was about 17 years ago. And I've been working with this population ever since. Also written 5 books. And like I said, spoke all over the country. And this is pretty much my passion, my purpose at this point, is working to help empower the neurodivergent community and also working to bridge the gap between neurodivergence and everyone else so that we can actually be a connected community and where we can all be included. So that's me in a nutshell.
Great. Now, this podcast is mostly for educators, and I'd like to ask your opinion about how you think schools, but not just like primary schools, secondary schools, universities, training centers in general for people, where people go to be educated or to learn something, develop skills. How ready do you think they are to attend to neurodivergent needs, let's say?
I don't think they're ready at all. And when you're looking at the traditional kindergarten through 12 structure, and even through college, there is so much emphasis on following the curriculum and teaching people the stuff that, how do I say this? The stuff that allows them to follow directions at their job, right? To do what they're told. Very little time is spent on creativity, innovation, outside the box thinking practices. And what's ironic about this conversation is I'm writing goal setting exercises for my neurodivergent clients. And one of the things I speak to is you've got to embrace the part of your brain that wants to play and say, what about this? What about that? Now, yeah, people with neurodivergence can go down a rabbit hole. They can get stuck on that. It's difficult to get them from it. But if it's made part of the exercise in a structured way, it shouldn't go off the rails. But the point being is if you try to teach somebody with neurodivergence to think in a linear fashion, they're going to get bored. They're going to get distracted. They're going to get frustrated because their brain wants to experiment and play. And that's often where some of the best ideas come from. So if that's something that was embraced in the classroom, everybody would benefit from that.
So how could teachers, educators do that? Are there trainings that are available for them? Do you think schools or private schools, let's say, should invest in this? How should teachers or educators get to have the knowledge and to be able to apply skills and work better with neurodivergent kids or
Well,
adults?
from the teachers that I'm most in contact with, a lot of the education they get is on their own. They read books, they watch documentaries, because the schools just won't pay for it. Because what they want is to, and this is not all schools, they want to cater towards the middle. We want our kids to pass the state tests or whatever, and that's the priority because that's how school gets funded. That's how principals and teachers keep their jobs. So they want to focus on the nitty gritty. But as far as where to start, and this is a problem with character education too. You talk about it, but you don't model it. It's just a box to check off. And it's important that a teacher be able to model this. So if they are in their own life getting outside that very linear way of doing things and experiment with allowing themselves to be more playful, it'll be so much easier to facilitate that with the class because you can embody it. You're not just opening up the book and saying, well, we've got to follow these 5 points to make sure this is a successful exercise, otherwise it doesn't count. It must be experiential. Too much in the head, not enough in the body. So movement needs to come into the classroom. Emotion needs to come into the classroom. It's too up here.
Yes. Now, you said that you were diagnosed as neurodivergent as an adult. You didn't know when you were a child. As an adult, maybe other adults have this problem. They don't know. They might just find out. How did getting diagnosed help you as an adult?
Well, one thing it helped with is understanding why people were always getting mad at me when I would give them what they asked for. So they would say, give me your honest opinion on this. I would. And then they say, you're not supposed to say that. That's rude. That's mean. That's inconsiderate. And I'd respond in shock saying, wait a minute. I just did what you asked for. So I figured out over time that there was something implied. There was some mind reading that was being expected of me. And all of these unspoken social rules about protecting other people's feelings, that was all off my radar entirely. So knowing it helped me understand what my side of the misunderstanding was, why it happened. And then I went about developing strategies for clarifying, for making sure I understood what they actually wanted versus what they asked me for. It helped me understand that my sensory experience of the world is not like everybody else's. I'm hypersensitive to just about every sound, sight, lighting, touch, all that stuff. And people would give me grief about that over the years. I don't have cooties or I'm not contagious. What's the big deal? People who lightly touch while they're talking to you, it drives me up the wall because I have light touch sensitivity. But if I would ask somebody not to do that, you're just so sensitive. So they made it personal. So knowing all these things helped me understand there's a reason, and it's not because I have character deficits, or it's not because I'm not tough enough. There's actually reasons for this. And this part took me a long time, but it helped me develop self-compassion. And that is so critical when you find yourself constantly bumping up against the world and like you have 10 times the resistance or obstacles anybody else does. So it's important that you be able to be patient and tender with yourself when you're going seemingly uphill against all these obstacles. So those are some of the best things to come from it.
So do you work with adults, children? Can you tell us a bit about the work that you do?
I work with the lifespan, usually no younger than 5, because I want to make sure I'm working with a child that can understand enough to be able to internalize and implement. They can learn to think things through a little bit. And I think my oldest client is 70, and I work with men, women, and it's just about where they are in their life journey and what they want to accomplish.
And what programs have you developed to help them?
I have a one-to-one program. I have a membership site, which is much more affordable. The best thing about the membership, which is, I call it Empower, it's all women, different generations, college students, grandmothers, parents, and the way they all connect and support each other, because there are values in there that I model, like we're all in this together. We don't talk about things as though they're personal. These things we call diagnoses are experiences we're having. We need to develop a relationship with those experiences that's compassionate and understanding and curious. And the community doing that together, the shame just evaporates because there's such a difference in how we hold each other. And like I said earlier about the teachers embodying what they want to teach, I make sure that I implement something before I even bring it to them, because I want to be able to describe, this is where I got hung up, this is how I got past the resistance, and I'm very transparent with them, because I can't ask them to be vulnerable if I'm not willing to go first. And the one-to-one, I have a digital workbook that I've developed that has all my lessons and strategies in it, and I give it to all my one-to-one clients. So they can go through and pick whatever lesson fits what they're working on right then and there, and they can check in with me when they feel stuck, they want to clarify something, but it's very portable. They can do this wherever they want to, whenever they want to. So it's very accessible, as am I, because my one-to-ones get the most access to me, and they also get my best stuff. And one other thing I have is what I call a power hour for someone that just has one area that they're stuck in, and they just want to get down to the bottom of it, figure out how to get through it, and have action steps they can take to create the result they actually want. So that's basically it.
So under this podcast, there's also going to be a button for people who are interested in joining the membership or getting in contact with you. I'm going to add this so people know they can click and they can directly get to you and talk to you in case they are interested. What are your plans for the future?
That's a good one. My plans for the future is, as other things I didn't mention are two chronic conditions that I have, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and MS. And I was in pain for 10 years. It took me off the speaking circuit because I couldn't travel. Now my pain is getting much better managed, but I haven't tried to travel yet. So one of my future plans is to get out and start presenting in person again. And writing another book, which is kind of in progress, and being able to travel more myself for pleasure. Those are the immediate ones that come to mind.
What I mostly do is I help educators start to grow their businesses. You are an educator and you have your own business. How has that affected your life?
It's been fantastic, especially with my health issues. Being able to work behind a computer from my bed, from right now I'm in my living room on a recliner, that has allowed me to continue making a living. Because there were days where I was in pain, I would sit up, do a conversation like this, and as soon as it was over, I'd lay back down. And I wouldn't get back up until I had to do something again. Sometimes I would work an entire day from my phone. I mean, what smartphones can do these days is incredible, and people that don't run their own business don't realize just how powerful those devices are. But for folks like us, it's a godsend, because right now I am unemployable in the 9-to-5 world. I don't have that much stamina. I can't sit up that long. I can't keep my energy consistent for that long. So people wouldn't hire me because I'm not a good drone. But in terms of being able to form a business and structure it around my executive function needs, my self-care needs, has been one of the biggest gifts in the world.
Now that we've come to the end of our interview, is there anything else you'd like to tell us, or do you have any message for educators?
The message I have for educators is be curious and teachable. Too many teachers take on the position of the smartest kid in the room. And whenever there's an intimidation factor like that, kids, especially neurodivergent kids, are even more afraid to look like they don't know it, to look dumb. So the more a teacher can model, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not know everything, and embrace that when it happens. Maybe a student brings up something they didn't know. And they say, oh, I didn't know that. I'm so glad you told me that, because now I know. And look to the class. Man, isn't it great when you pick up little knowledge like that? Man, we can learn so much from each other. Boom. You just modeled curiosity. You modeled how to embrace not knowing things. So you've now kind of opened the door for anybody that was insecure to have a similar experience with you, and you embrace it. Instead of saying, you didn't read the chapter, did you? So
Yeah.
that's my final message to educators. Be curious, be teachable.
Thank you. Ta-da!
You're very welcome.